Look, it happens to everyone. You buy a brand new computer, you boot it up for the first time, and you're amazed at how fast it is. But then a couple years or even months go by, and before you know it, the computer struggles to even run some basic programs. What happened? Well, there are a lot of reasons why a computer might slow down over time, but I've got a list of 10 things that you can do in Windows specifically that will hopefully get the computer up and running more like when you first bought it. And don't worry, these are all very simple and free things that you can do right now. And some of these might seem a little bit technical, but they're really not that complicated once you actually see what to do. So why don't we get started? First and foremost, clear out your startup programs. This has got to be the #1 reason for slowdowns over time. I'm sure many of you already know this, because think about it. As time goes on, you install new programs, and many of them make themselves start up with Windows, and if you don't close them after you boot up, you'll have an ever-increasing number of programs just running in the background, taking up resources all the time. But don't think that just because you don't see any programs in the taskbar, that there aren't that many running in the background. In Windows 8 and Windows 10, you can actually open up the Task Manager, you press Control-Shift-Escape, and then go to the Startup tab in the Task Manager to see all the programs that are going to start up with Windows. In Windows 7 and earlier, it's a little bit different. You go to the Start menu and type in msconfig and run that, and then you go to the Startup tab in that, and you can right-click and disable anything that you don't immediately need all the time to actually start up. And you can obviously just manually run these whenever you want, you just don't need them to start up with Windows. But here's where most people screw up, because the Startup tab is not the end of the story. Many programs install what are called services, which are still programs that run in the background, but you never necessarily see them. So #2 is to go through these startup services and disable any that you don't need as well, in addition to the startup programs in the Task Manager. Now you can do this by going to the Start menu and running services.msc. Just run that, or maybe go to Start menu, run, and type in that in earlier versions. You'll get a list of all the services, and any that say automatic will start with Windows, just like the programs. And what you can do is right-click on them, hit Properties, and then change the startup type to say manual instead of automatic. So they'll only run when you actually start the program and need it. Keep in mind though that you should be more cautious when disabling these services, especially for programs that aren't necessarily manually run by you. So for example, disabling the printer service might cause trouble the next time you go to print. That's something I would not disable. So only disable services that you know you don't need running in the background. And this is also great for programs that you may see starting up all the time, but you can't find in the startup list. It may actually be a service, and that's why it wouldn't show up, but you can still stop it from starting up. Now quickly, kind of as a #2.5, this one just really goes off the first two, but uninstall any unused programs. This will free up hard drive space and remove up startup junk without having to go through the whole list of startup programs and services, trying to figure out what each one does. If you just go through the list of programs that you don't need in the control panel and uninstall them, it's way easier. All right, #3, another simple one that you're hopefully already doing is scanning for malware and viruses. If your computer is always running slow for no apparent reason, it's possible that there are hidden malicious software running in the background and doing anything from showing you ads to using your computer resources in a botnet. Now there are free and paid antivirus options, and there's even free versions of paid ones. So some free ones include Avast, AVG, Bitdefender, Malwarebytes, and for some paid programs, I personally use ESET Smart Security, and I've been happy with it, so I would recommend that one. And even if your computer isn't necessarily running slow, you should always have some sort of antivirus on your computer for reasons I've covered plenty of other times in other videos. For example, sometimes if you're on an exploited website, then you might even get a virus just by going on it if there's an exploit in the browser. Even if you didn't click on anything, there's other ways you can get infected. Always have an antivirus. Okay, #4 is really quick and easy, and that is disabling Windows animations. One of the ways you can do this is go to the Ease of Access settings window, probably in the control panel, and check Turn off all unnecessary animations when possible. If you want a little bit more control, you can also go to the control panel, then System, Advanced System Settings, Performance Settings, and then there you can adjust which animations you want to use. You can select best performance, which will disable all of them, or you can actually pick and choose. And this will probably only make a difference on really low power computers, but it might help in other cases, especially if you want to squeeze out every drop of performance. Next up, number 5 is keep all your software up to date. This includes Windows itself, your graphics drivers, and anything else you use regularly. These software companies are going to be frequently releasing new updates that optimize for performance as well as improve security most of the time. Plus, it's just good practice. Moving on to number 6, this one might seem dumb, but hold on. Check your power settings, especially on laptops. The default may be to have it set to balanced or even power saver, which are good for conserving battery, but will slow down your computer considerably. Instead, maybe you want to change it to high performance, definitely if you're on a desktop, and on a laptop, maybe only if you're plugged in. I actually learned this the hard way a couple years back. I got a brand new laptop. It was supposed to be like really high end, really fast, right? But when I actually got it, it was super slow and I couldn't figure out why. It was so annoying. I was like, I spent all this money. And then after several days, I finally realized it was on power saver mode. And of course, when I switched it to high performance, then it was lightning fast. So be sure to check that. I felt like a complete idiot, and it's not something you always think about. Okay, so now we're gonna get slightly more technical, but don't worry. So number 7 is to check your hard drive for errors. You can do this in a couple of ways, actually. First, you can check the hard drive's reported smart health by going to the command prompt. So go to the start menu, type CMD, and in the command prompt, type WMIC. Then type disk drive, one word, get status. If they all say okay, one for each drive, it means that there are no immediate serious errors that it thinks it can see at least. If any of them say something other than okay, then one of your drives could be having issues and you should really replace it if the smart health is not okay. It means that something is going wrong with the drive, and a lot of times these just get worse and worse over time. It's not going to fix itself. The other way to check for drive errors is to go to the command prompt again and run the check disk command by typing in check disk, if you pronounce it, or rather CHKDSK space /F. The /F means it's going to also try to repair anything it finds. Now this is going to search for and try to repair those errors, and if you consistently get a lot of errors as a result of this, again, that may mean your drive is failing, and this is why you always want to back up. Always. You don't really know when your hard drive is going to fail. It may be sudden, but you can generally get an idea if you run these commands. And if it gets errors and it repairs them and that's it, if you run it again a week later and they're fine, that's fine. But if you notice that week after week you're still getting errors, you might want to get a new drive. Number 8, check the Windows files integrity. You can do this back at the good old command prompt again. You type in sfc/scan now. And this is going to run the system file checker, and it will try and find any system files that are missing or corrupted and try to repair them. These are specifically files that Windows uses. Now, there are a ton of possibilities for different error messages it could spit back at you. So if you get one, you're just gonna have to Google it for yourself, okay? Just figure it out. I'm not gonna be able to help everyone with every random error they get because I don't know what they would be anyway. I'd just be searching them as well. So if you get an error message, you're just gonna have to figure it out yourself, but at least you know there's something wrong. Next, on to number 9, check for memory errors. We're doing a lot of checking, it's important. If you have bad memory, it can cause all sorts of weird problems that you would never probably guess has to do anything with the RAM, but it probably does. Now to do this, to check the memory, you want to go to the start menu and search for Windows Memory Diagnostic. Now be careful, because after you do that, you don't want to click Restart Now necessarily, unless you actually want to restart right this second. You probably would rather click on Restart at the next startup, and then you can just restart whenever you want. And after you restart, it's going to boot into the diagnostic tool and should just automatically start doing the memory check and tell you if anything comes up. Or if you want to get a little bit more advanced, you can press F1 while it's doing it, and that will change some of the settings, but that's not really necessary. If you do get a lot of errors, it could mean a couple things. It could mean just your RAM isn't seated properly, but if you check that, it could also mean that one of the sticks is faulty and does need to be replaced. if RAM is actually bad, replacing it is really the only option because it's typically a hardware issue. You're not going to be able to fix it yourself. It's just broken. All right, so now the final one for the free options, though there are a couple non-free things I'll mention in a second afterwards. But number 10 is to just nuke it and start all over, reformat the hard drive, and reinstall Windows. This is obviously going to be the most extreme option, but if you're getting consistent issues that you can't seem to fix no matter what you try, a fresh installation of Windows is often just the best way to go. It's just restarting altogether. Now, explaining how to reformat and reinstall Windows is way beyond the scope of this video, and if you have no idea what I'm talking about, then it's probably not something you should do, but this list would not be complete without it. So now here are a couple other bonus options, but these do involve actually buying new hardware, so they're not free. First, you can buy an SSD, a solid state drive, to replace your main hard drive. You could just get a small one and just boot Windows off it if you want to be really cheap about it, but SSDs are much cheaper today, so you probably just want to get a big one. And let me just tell you, there is probably nothing better that you can do that will make your computer faster than getting an SSD. Of course, this is assuming that the rest of your computer isn't ancient, but once you get one, you're never gonna go back. It's amazing. It's so much faster to load programs, to boot up, everything's faster. The other thing you can do is maybe buy more memory, depending on how much you have right now. If you have 8 gigabytes of RAM or less, and you do more than just check emails and type up Word documents, you probably could actually benefit from getting some more RAM. However, I would think in almost all situations, it would be much more beneficial to get an SSD first instead of more RAM. You're just gonna get much faster results out of that. And no, unfortunately, you can't just download more RAM, as awesome as that would be. So I think that just about sums it up. Those should be some great things to try if your computer is running slower than it should be, if you think. And if I did forget anything, you can be sure to let me know. So leave a comment, maybe with any tips you think would also be helpful. Everyone else should appreciate it as well. And if you guys did like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. If you want to keep watching, also I've put some other videos right here on the right hand side. You can click on these even if you're on a phone. And if you want to subscribe, I make new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, so it should be worth it. And also consider clicking that bell next to the subscribe button for notifications, because YouTube's algorithm will probably not show you my new videos otherwise. So again, I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. Let me know down in the comments section what you think. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.